Top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Rick Merrigan, who handles the career of several fighters, Jose Ramirez among them. Rick posted a tweet that reads, Jose Ramirez has chosen to put the fight of the year on calendar and establish his legacy. Stay tuned as 2023 starts off with a bang in the sport's deepest and hottest division, referring to the 140-pound division. Not quite as political as the welterweight division, certainly not as stagnant.
The image seen below, you'll see Jose Ramirez, former unified champion Jose Ramirez, and current reigning newly crowned WBC champion, two-time super lightweight champion, Regis Prograis.
Are the wheels in motion behind the scenes to finally make this fight happen? You do realize that some years ago, before the World Boxing Super Series kicked off and Regis Prograis so decided to participate, the talk of the town at 140 pounds was a potential Regis Prograis versus Jose Ramirez fight. This is back when they were both
unbeaten fighters at that time. This is what, 3, maybe 4 years ago?
Back then, both teams, Team Prograis and Team Ramirez, jointly made a decision to forego the fight between Jose and Regis on the premise that they'd revisit the fight at a time when the fight would be worth more money.
Way back when Regis Prograis was WBC interim champion to Jose Ramirez's full title, and the fight between them was ordered, but both teams decided to forego the fight.
Lou DiBella used to be Regis Prograis' handler in those days. Jose Ramirez, then like now, he was with Top Rank.
The decorum didn't change for Jose, but it did change for Regis. He's not with Lou DiBella anymore. He's supposed to be a pro bellum fighter with Richard Schaefer.
I don't know how much emphasis we can place on that when Richard Schaefer, in essence, he didn't even promote Regis' last fight. Regis' last fight was picked up by Marv Nation. Better still,
this is an encouraging omen, a good sign, because I would prefer that Regis Prograis cross over to the Top Rank and ESPN side of things as opposed to pursuing unification matches over there at the PBC. There are 2 belts over there at the PBC. The black and gold belt in possession of Alberto Puello,
and the red and gold belt, newly vacated IBF title that was vacated earlier this year by Tosh Jailer. It's supposed to be contested between Jeremiah Ponce and Subriel Matias. We still don't have a definitive fight date for that match, but I would prefer that Regis go to ESPN as opposed to Showtime, because if he goes to Showtime, there's no telling how long it's going to take those people to make a fight. Whereas if he goes to ESPN...
Look at how many years have passed. Look at how many years it's taken them to get Caleb Plant and David Benavidez in the ring.
They still haven't shared it yet. Better still, we've already had that conversation, and the bottom line is, I think ESPN, Top Rank, will be a little bit more Johnny on the spot, making fights happen for Regis if he goes there, as opposed to going over to the PBC and Showtime. And if Rick Merrigan and Jose Ramirez have interest in sharing the ring with Regis, I think Regis would be willing to oblige them for the right price. A Jose Ramirez fight has more marquee value comparatively than, say, an Alberto Puello fight. In spite of Alberto being the reigning WBA super lightweight champion, the man has no profile. He's not a ticket seller. Jose is in Fresno, California.
But don't you want to see Regis unified titles?
Of course I'd like to see Regis unified titles, but I just told you, you can't trust the PBC to get those unification matches over the line in a timely fashion. They were supposed to do a unification match between Leo Santa Cruz and Ray Vargas at featherweight. Look what happened to that.
Nothing.
Didn't go nowhere. Never got off the ground. It's Gary Russell situation all over again.
They've got 2 bona fide champions in today's featherweight division, and they failed to make a fight between them.
I do not trust the PBC to put together fights, unification matches, in a timely fashion, even if they have more than one champion at a given weight.
So while I might want to see Regis Prograis unify titles with the other champions at this weight, it'd take the PBC forever to get it done, if they get it done at all.
Whereas if he goes to Top Rank, there's at least one unification match he can have if he goes over there. The winner of Taylor versus Catterall 2, which has since been delayed, and we'll talk about that a little later. But it's not exclusive to a potential unification match. Teofimo Lopez, who's going to be in action this weekend, he's also on that side of the street, as is Jose Ramirez, whose handler, Rick Merrigan, has expressed an interest in making that fight, revisiting it. So I say, go to Top Rank. They won't waste your time.
They don't stick around over there.
It's not saying that Top Rank is perfect, but that's saying that if they've got more than one champion at a given weight, there's a good chance that they make the fight between them.
Remember, when Artur Beterbiev first signed to Top Rank, he had his Top Rank debut, and the very next fight he was unifying titles with Alexander Vosdik. More recently, they made the unification match between him and Joe Smith Jr.
The unification matches that Vasyl Lomachenko had in the lightweight division, the Linares fight, the Pedraza fight, the eventual Teofimo Lopez match, which he lost, but still had.
Not telling you that Top Rank is perfect. I'm just telling you that when they've got more than one champion at a given weight, they'll make a fight, and they'll make the fight in a timely fashion.
Whereas the PBC, time and time again, have proven they can have more than one champion at a given weight, and they still won't make the fight in a timely fashion. Whether you're talking about Leo and Gary, or Leo and Ray Vargas, or Caleb and David.
I want Regis to go to Top Rank, and that's it.
I don't want him wasting any of his time with those people at the PBC. And that's the bottom line.
Fuck off.
Even though Jose Ramirez is not a champion anymore, a fight with him yields more marquee value than a Puello fight, than a fight with the winner of Matias versus Ponce, even though I very much like the idea of those fights, and I even like Regis's chances in those fights. I cannot trust the PBC to get the job done in a timely fashion.
Prograis versus Ramirez is still a very good fight, very good action fight.
Jose Ramirez, a statuesque, physically imposing, pressure fighter. Regis Prograis, a slickster, counterpuncher, heaviest hands, some of the heaviest hands in the whole of the 140-pound division.
Skip the foreplay, make the fight.
Make the fight, and then let the winner of that fight face the winner of Tosh Jailer versus Kat Jadderall 2.
Skip the foreplay, make the fight.
In other news, Hall of Fame promoter Bob Arum said,
"In the States, Eddie Hearn is considered a joke."
Very recently, both the Matchroom impresario and Hall of Fame promoter Bob Arum traded barbs.
That's wonderful, and I like edibles, and I don't make excuses for having used marijuana, but I don't like using when I'm working. I don't use it when I'm doing interviews. I do it at night in my own private world. So, if that's all Eddie has, that's just typical nonsense from Eddie Hearn.
Arum did not hold his tongue there. The Hall of Fame promoter then excoriated Hearn for failing to seize a significant market share of boxing in the United States. In 2018, Hearn announced a lucrative partnership with DAZN, the streaming platform, in a play to take over American boxing.
The American boxing scene.
But competition turned out to be more fierce than Hearn or DAZN had apparently anticipated.
I told you guys a long time ago, I told you when DAZN first debuted in America, that a competitive market is a good market for the consumer, but it makes everybody's job harder. For the consumer, it's good, but for the people in boxing, it makes their jobs a lot harder.
Having to keep up with the Joneses.
Trust me, in the United States, Eddie Hearn is considered a joke. Ask any promoter. Ask Golden Boy. Ask Al Heyman. Eddie Hearn is a joke. DAZN gave him over $1 billion to crack the U.S. market, and all he's done is piss the money away. So if you talk about a joke, it's Eddie Hearn, how he's acted in the United States. One of the problems with Eddie Hearn is that he gets involved in everybody's business. Everybody's business is his. He predicts how a fight will draw on pay-per-view when he has nothing to do with the fight. Isn't he better off concentrating on a fight that he's promoting, where he does have skin in the game, than to talk about other people's fights? But no, you put a microphone in front of him, it spews out a guy that can't control himself and talks for the sake of talking.
Listen, look, it's a popular narrative in the U.S. boxing scene that Eddie Hearn pissed away $1 billion or over $1 billion on boxing, when that's not the truth. In fact, it's an outright lie. DAZN as a platform...
They didn't spend $1 billion on boxing.
DAZN being a global streaming platform, they set their sights on a global market, purchasing the rights to Bundesliga, a German soccer league.
The rights to other sports in order to feature them on their platform. They didn't spend $1 billion on boxing and boxing alone. That's a gross exaggeration that many Americans like to propagate.
It sounds good to say that Eddie Hearn blew over $1 billion in America and he ain't got nothing to show for it. It sounds good, but it's not the truth. It's not reality. And reality is, while DAZN cracking the U.S. market didn't go as planned, not completely, and yes, there were losses.
You're cracking a new market. There are going to be growing pains.
What they gained has more commercial value than anything or anyone that Top Rank has. And that is their ongoing partnership with the cash cow of boxing in this country, Canelo Alvarez. If Eddie Hearn is such a joke, then surely the face of boxing in this country would not continue to do business with him. In his own words, Canelo says he loves working with Eddie.
Though annotations aside, the two Canelo Alvarez fights that Matchroom staged in America.
Think about the people that Bob Arum mentioned. Think about the people that Al Heyman brought up. He brought up Oscar De La Hoya. He brought up Golden Boy Promotions because Golden Boy Promotions is doing as good as Matchroom is right now.
You kidding me?
Everybody knows that Golden Boy Promotions is treated a lot like Matchroom's ugly little sister, little cousin over there at DAZN. That Matchroom's shows and Eddie Hearn gets more priority than Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions. And look at the state of Golden Boy Promotions.
They are not staging shows anywhere near the size or anywhere near as frequently as Matchroom is. How many shows in total has Golden Boy Promotions even put on this year?
Ever since losing Canelo Alvarez as one of their fighters, Golden Boy has struggled to regain their footing. They haven't quite recovered yet. And this entire calendar year, what major shows has Golden Boy Promotions put on? Shows like Joshua versus Usyk 2, Canelo versus Bivol, Canelo versus Golovkin, shows that greatly dwarf anything else in the American market in terms of marquee value, market value. What shows
has Golden Boy Promotions put on this entire calendar year the size of Canelo versus Bivol or the size of Canelo versus Golovkin? The same question can be asked.
You can ask Tom Brown, you can ask Samson Lukowicz, you can ask Al Heyman the same question. What shows have they put on this entire calendar year the size of Canelo versus Bivol or Canelo versus Golovkin? Because those were Matchroom shows. Those were shows that Matchroom promoted in the American market.
To Americans.
You can't say ask Oscar De La Hoya, Al Heyman how Eddie's doing in America when Eddie's doing better than they are in America. He's putting on bigger shows than they are. Eddie Hearn responded to Bob Arum, claiming that Matchroom have blown away $1 billion in the U.S.
Hearn responded to Arum in an interview with ID Boxing, stating that he believes his rivals have given up on promoting in the United States and think they will be losing their lucrative TV deal with ESPN.
It's a very grim forecast, and I don't know that I can agree with that.
I don't know that ESPN is going to give Top Rank the axe. What we do know is that the people over there at Fox, they are all but done in the sport of boxing. Beyond this year, rumor has it, they're not going to renew their deal with the PBC.
But as far as ESPN and Top Rank, I have no reason to believe that the relationship is strained. Hearn was particularly critical of the gates and ticket sales Top Rank produced this year. The Virgin Hotel and Resorts World are both small venues, and it would be challenging to produce a strong gate in them. For example, it was reported earlier this year that former Unified champion Michaela Mayer headlined at the Hangar in Costa Mesa and sold just 600 tickets, equating to a $37,000 gate.
Compare that to what Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano sold at Madison Square Garden in front of 19,000 people. Over 19,000 people showed up for that fight.
Both fights featured female fighters in their main event. So you tell me, who put on the bigger show? Matchroom or Top Rank?
Don't bring up Shields versus Marshall, because that wasn't in America, and that wasn't even a Top Rank show. That was a boxer show.
Boxer promoted that fight, not Top Rank. That was a boxer show.
And it was in the UK, not the US.
They're going to Turning Stone next for Efe Ajagba against Rivas. I think they've given up. They've probably realized ESPN aren't going to be renewing their contract.
Top Rank, I don't know. Top Wank.
The Matchroom chairman blasted Top Rank for staging Ajagba versus Rivas as a main event fight in the U.S. and believed it was a sign of them giving up on promoting boxing in the United States. Eddie Hearn also believes that ESPN will not be renewing their TV deal with Top Rank due to poor TV ratings. Despite Hearn's comments, there is nothing to suggest this is true. The viewership on ESPN has not seen any significant change from last year, although they have lacked major U.S.-based events, with the loss of Terrence Crawford from their stable and Fury fighting twice in the United Kingdom. But you see, that's the point.
Top Rank's biggest draw is Tyson Fury, more than any other fighter they have.
And Tyson Fury hasn't fought in America since last year. The two fights he did have this year were in the UK, not the US. In the US, the promoter promoting the biggest shows would have to be Eddie Hearn, because no show that Top Rank put on this year in America was bigger than Canelo versus Bivol or Canelo versus Golovkin.
Oh, and I know what you guys are going to tell me. You're going to tell me that Matchroom didn't groom Canelo Alvarez. Canelo was already a finished product when Matchroom started doing business with him. But I can say the same thing about Tyson Fury and Top Rank.
Matchroom acquired Canelo Alvarez the same way that Top Rank and Frank Warren acquired Tyson Fury. Lest we forget, it was Mick Hennessy that got Tyson Fury to the Klitschko fight. Not Frank Warren and not Bob Arum. They didn't groom that fighter.
They didn't come into it until well after he came out of retirement. So if you're going to handicap Matchroom shows on the premise that they didn't groom Canelo, Top Rank and Queensberry didn't groom Tyson Fury.
Not that Tyson Fury fought in the United States this year anyway. He didn't. The biggest shows in America this year, the biggest shows so far, were all Matchroom shows. Whether you're talking about female headliners like Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano,
But a cash cow of boxing and Canelo Alvarez, the two shows he had this year, those were all bigger shows than anything Top Rank, Golden Boy, or the PBC put on jointly.
As a consumer, listen, I like Top Rank. I like Top Rank shows. That's not saying they didn't put on good fights this year, but if we're talking about who put on the biggest fights in the American market this year,
Hell, the fight that Eddie Hearn is referencing for early next year, the Ajagba versus Rivas fight. I love that fucking fight. I think it's a great fight, but what it ain't is a big fight.
and you can't say that Eddie Hearn is a joke or he's failing in America when he's putting on bigger shows in your backyard than you are.
Healthy competition, that's what this
It's a
is.
professional rivalry is what it is. Though for what it's worth, I've liked the content from both Matchroom and Top Rank, though the more memorable shows
And the more memorable fights were the Matchroom shows this year. Perhaps that will be different come next year.
comparatively, the bigger shows all around, overall, were the Matchroom shows. Shows like Joshua versus Usyk 2, Canelo versus Golovkin 3, Canelo versus Bivol.
Ramirez versus Bivol, Taylor versus Serrano.
Not all of those shows were staged on U.S. soil, but then again, not all of Top Rank's shows were staged on U.S. soil, so listen.
Haney versus Kambosos wasn't.
You really can't say that Eddie's failing in America when Eddie's doing bigger shows in America than you are.